It's Combo Breaker, come on, grab your friends. They'll probably end up fucking dead. With Finn the Human
and Steven!
Alright, jokes aside, today we have quite an interesting battle. So let me take you back a few years to when Cartoon Network decided that we have great cartoons like Teen Titans and Powerpuff Girls, but fuck all of that. And all those shows came to an end for no reason. Cartoon Network then fell into an abyss of live-action shows like Destroy, Build, Destroy. And dude, what would happen? Those shows were shit, but one cartoon would come out and take Cartoon Network into a renaissance of great cartoons, and that show was Adventure Time. Later, Cartoon Network would have a similar problem, but this time it was with really shitty cartoon reboots and bad shows in general. But just like Adventure Time, Steven Universe would come from the ashes and revive Cartoon Network to its former state of glory. So logically, we should have those two iconic cartoon heroes fight to the death. Anyway, if this long-ass intro didn't clue you in on today's combatants, allow me to introduce them. Finn the Human, the legendary hero from the land of Ooh, and Steven Universe, the half-gem, half-human hero of Beach City. I love Steven Universe. It's one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and for good reason too. It's really funny and action-packed, and still somehow hit you directly in the fucking feels with its really fucking sad moments, and damn it, the cartoon is so good. Alright, well let's go ahead and talk about Steven's powers and abilities, and oh boy does he have some unique ones to cover. So Steven has the ability to shapeshift. Well, kind of. He's only ever shown the power to turn parts of his body into cats, which, it's kind of useless, unless, maybe. Nope, it's completely fucking useless. Well, he can also manipulate his own age and appearance, but I don't see this being very effective in combat. He also has healing spit. Yeah, his spit can be used to heal wounds and crack gems. Yup, equally gross and useful. Not to mention he can use his tears to heal as well, but that's more circumstantial as he has to be crying to do that. Plus, his tears can also bring rocks to life that will aid him in combat, which is actually pretty useful. Steven also has some sort of plant manipulation, but unlike, say, Poison Ivy or hell, even Groot, he's unable to make the plants do whatever he wants at all times. Instead, he's able to make plant minions and control other plants, not by making them grow or anything, but by just straight up controlling them. For example, he once ate a watermelon and spit out the seeds, which created several watermelon Stevens that would protect him with their lives. It's really, really useful. Kinda reminds me of my army of fully sentient taco combos. They aren't very tough because, well, they're tacos. In hindsight, I probably should have picked a tougher food. Well, unlike my normal vision, my hindsight is 20/20. Anyway, while sleeping, Steven can actually communicate with others and even control their body if they're asleep as well. And what the fuck? Yeah, this power set is really cool, but also really odd. That being said, not all of Steven's powers are very weird and circumstantial. He can actually levitate as well as slow and manipulate his fall speed, but he can't fly, which is kind of weird when you look at all of his other falling-based abilities. But hey, he can still jump incredible heights and distances. Steven's weird powers aside, he does have one primary gem ability, and that's his gem weapon. This iconic shield is passed down to him by his mother. Steven's gem allows him to create this shield at any time, and it also has some interesting abilities of its own. His shield can grow in size, reflect projectiles, and it can be thrown like Captain America. Hell, it even bounces between opponents like a super deadly game of pinball. Speaking of Captain America, Steven's shield is very similar to it, as it can emit vibrations to disrupt certain things, like hologram pearls and Lapis Lazuli's water attacks. Wow, Steven and Cap actually have quite a few similarities, don't they? Oh my god. Is this a setup for a Cartoon Network Infinity War? Oh, holy shit. Does that mean Aku is Thanos? Oh, this would be such a cool crossover. Amazing crossover ideas aside, Steven does have another shield-related power. He can encase himself in his bubble shield that will block all incoming attacks and can even extend out spikes to make him a super deadly hamster ball of doom, able to crush his foes with ease. Plus, his shield can act as a reactive protection ability, as sometimes he'll automatically bubble around Steven to save his life. He's also shown the ability to fuse with others to combine his strength and speed, durability, and intelligence with theirs, as seen when he fuses with his girlfriend Connie or any of his gem allies. However, this does require the consent of both parties. He can also put a bubble around his foes to encase them in it, making them unable to move, just like SpongeBob, only Steven doesn't look fucking stupid while doing it. Now, Steven actually has a weapon other than his gem weapon, and that's his mother's sword, a special sword designed to poof gems but never shatter them. However, the sword was broken during a fight with one of the diamonds, but I'll still allow it for this fight for the sake of just giving him his best arsenal. Steven also has access to his mother's battle armor that will protect him like, well, any good armor would. Alright, and on to feats, and oh boy has Steven done quite a bit. Steven was strong enough to punch in the dashboard of his father's van, destroy an arcade machine, and vibrate his shields at such a high frequency, he was able to disrupt and destroy water clones that were able to fight the crystal gems. He's beaten multiple hollow pearls and fought on par with Amethyst in a fight. Plus, Steven was able to physically unfuse Topaz, who could fight the other 3 crystal gems all at once. Not to mention his shield was able to block a blast from the other 3 diamonds, plus his bubble took the force of an exploding gem warship, and he managed to block attacks from Blue Diamond and even Yellow Diamond. He was also able to hurt Blue Diamond, who could easily overpower Lapis, who could control all the water on Earth. Not to mention, when his gem was removed, it was able to easily dispel attacks from not only White Diamond, but the other 2 diamonds as well. Steven's also super fast. He's fast enough to run so fast that Greg only saw him as a blur. He was able to keep up with several high-level Hollow Pearls in a fight, and he's fought on par with Amethyst. Not to mention he kept up with and beat Bismuth in combat, even going as far as to draw his sword and kill her before she could actually hit him. Bismuth easily kept up with Garnet, who could punch a lightning bolt out of the fucking sky, and Bismuth can keep up with Pearl, who is able to pilot a spaceship through a meteor shower. Now onto his durability, and he's actually quite impressive actually. Physically, he survived an explosion of a temple and a headbutt from Jasper, who fought on par with Garnet. Not to mention his shield was able to block an attack from White, Yellow, and Blue Diamond, and this is due to a major spoiler here, Steven's gem being Pink Diamond. Yes, his mom was the missing Pink Diamond, so all of this diamond scaling should add up quite a bit more. And he also blocked a hit from Yellow Diamond, who broke through her own ship that could match the planet-sized cluster in combat. And he was able to take a hit from Blue Diamond directly without blocking it. Steven's also quite smart. While never attending school, he's shown great problem-solving skills, as he's made his way through dangerous dungeons with nothing but random items in his backpack, and he's fought alongside and against gems who have lived through thousands of years and fought in several wars. So Steven only has one real flaw, and that's that he's a pacifist. He will not go for a killing blow unless it's absolutely necessary. No matter who comes to take him down, Steven's ready to protect his home of Beach City.
Steven, light him up.
If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs.
Adventure time! This show was a really interesting show. I remember watching the pilot of this show and just loving it. After that, I watched almost every episode that came out. I mean, I love that show. And while Marceline is my personal favorite character, I still really enjoyed watching Finn and Jake go on adventures. Honestly, I'm sad to see that it's over. Reminiscing about cartoons and childhood aside, let's actually cover what Finn's packing in terms of powers. Finn has a number of super cool powers he can use in combat, such as his Ice Ninja powers that he can use to manipulate ice and create weapons made of ice. He also has plenty of wizard powers. Wizard powers? Isn't that just magic? What kind of fucking idiot wrote this script? What do you mean I wrote this script? What do you mean I'm alone and this bit is getting old? Ugh. Well, stupidity aside, Finn has plenty of magical abilities to cover. He can use his magic to fly, or use telekinesis. Plus, he can use his magic to launch energy blasts and even manipulate the souls of his enemies. He also transmutes things and manipulates shadows and dust. Dust manipulation? Really? How the fuck is that useful? What is he, the friggin' god of vacuums? Anyway, stupid powers aside, we still have plenty of magic to talk about. He can use his magic to manipulate hair, fire, and mayonnaise. Yes, I guess if he needs his magic to make the world's greatest sandwich, he could use that mayonnaise power. Ugh. Well, he can also use his magic for short-range teleportation, and he can even reflect magic-based attacks. Finn has also shown amazing resistance to mental attacks, as even the Lynch couldn't control him. So Finn's magic powers, as cool as they are, aren't Finn's main tools in combat. That honor falls upon his swords. So let's go ahead and talk about those weapons he's packing. Now, Finn has several cool weapons in his arsenal, but they're mostly swords. Like my god, Finn has no variety in his weapons. Like, if his armory was a spice, it'd be fucking flour. That's how little variety and flavor there is. That being said, his swords are pretty badass in general, though. He has his classic OG sword, Scarlet, a damaged golden sword that he can use for things like hacking and slashing, and cutting sandwiches. Sorry, all the talk about mayo magic made me a little bit hungry. He has the Demon Blood Sword, a badass red sword made from the blood of a legendary demon. Wait, the sword's made of blood. How the fuck do you even hold that? Oh, god. Imagine all the diseases you would get from that. Okay, I think I'm good. He also has the Grass Sword that he can use to cut through just about anything, which is surprising, saying as though its main counter would be like a fucking lawnmower, or a weed whacker, or like any lawn care tool. He also has the Finn Sword, a powerful sword from an alternate timeline that is by far his strongest sword. Finn has some other tricks up his sleeve in terms of arsenal. He can sacrifice his arm to summon Fern, a grass version of himself who supposedly is equal. I might need a bigger lawnmower, because that's some mean-ass grass. When Finn summons Fern, he does lose his arm, but luckily Finn has a robotic arm to replace it. This metal arm has a weed whacker. So wait a minute, he carries a weed whacker, yet his best equipment is grass-based. Why? What the fuck? Anyway, his arm also has a few other less practical tools in it, so they're not really noteworthy. Now on to Finn's feats, and oh my god, is Finn super impressive. He's strong enough to overpower and take down the Ice King, who could freeze entire kingdoms and, more importantly, the entire planet in an alternate timeline. Plus, he managed to take down Orglorg the World Breaker. I'm sorry if I just mispronounced that horribly. He also managed to cut off the Lich's arm, though. And keep in mind, the Lich said that the Ice King was pathetically weak in comparison. He's also taken down the Gumball Guardians before, which is incredibly impressive, and he's fought and defeated Fern, who's his equal in power. He could also beat monsters who could cut through the fucking planet. Yeah. Plus, Finn is stupidly fast as well. He's easily faster than the businessmen who could build a bridge in under a second. Plus, he dodged a magical blast, and he can keep pace with the Ice King, who can fly into space in a short period of time. Not to mention, he should be comparable to Charlie, who ran around the world in a short period of time as well. Finn is also super durable as well. He can trade blows with the Ice King and Fern. Keep in mind, Fern is physically equal to Finn. And on top of all of that, Finn, after kissing the Flame Princess, survived the point-blank blast of the heat that, according to Princess Bubblegum, was going to destroy the entire fucking planet. Man, there's a lot of planetary stuff in here, isn't there? But let's go ahead and talk about intelligence. Finn is the hero and the champion of Ooh, and while he lacks any sort of formal training, he's still shown amazing skill, able to easily take down monsters, demons, and trained soldiers. And he's able to take on so much more. Hell, he can navigate through dungeons blindfolded, and he beat Jake in a card game that he had never heard of up until that point. All this being said though, Finn is not perfect. I know it's hard to believe, but as I mentioned, he lacks any real training, and he does rely on his swords and isn't very good in a fist fight. No matter what the threat is, Finn's ready to take him down and save all of Ooh.
So what?
So, my ancient scholar raises the dead. I flooped the pig.
Alright, our combatants are set. Let's find out which of Cartoon Network's new heroes will come out on top in a fight to the death. Finn is walking through the land of Ooh when he spots Steven, who throws his shield and knocks out Marceline. Steven's shield then disappears as he sits down and sighs in relief. Steven's moment of rest is short-lived as Finn draws his sword and rushes at Steven. Finn then slashes downwards at Steven, who quickly puts up his shield that forms around his arm and blocks Finn's attack. Steven then forcefully pushes back Finn with his shield as he stares at him in a bit of a panic. Finn rushes at Steven and slashes his sword to the side of Steven, who quickly blocks and draws his sword and stabs at Finn, who flips backwards, narrowly dodging the stab. Finn then launches out a fireball at Steven, burning his shoulder as Finn dashes forward and slashes at Steven, cutting his arm badly open. Finn quickly slams his sword down at Steven, who encases himself in a bubble shield, causing Finn's sword to bounce off the bubble. Finn then stalls back from the recoil as he strikes at Steven, who spits on his hand and rubs down his wound, healing it. Steven then dissipates the bubble as Finn runs over and tries to slide kick Steven, who jumps onto Finn's head and stomps him into the ground as he flies into the air. Finn stands back up in pain as Steven throws his shield at Finn, hitting him in the head. Steven then flies down and grabbing his shield midair as he slams his shield down onto Finn's head on the way down, smashing him into the ground. Finn then stands up, rubbing his head as Steven dashes at him, shield first. Finn quickly rolls to the side and swings his sword, slashing at Steven, cutting his back open. Steven falls to one knee as Finn raises his sword, but Steven spins and trip kicks Finn. Finn falls to the ground as he releases his grass sword into the Finn sword. Steven stands up to see Finn with a metal arm as Fern is standing next to him. Finn rushes at Steven and stabs at him several times, with Steven narrowly dodging each stab. Steven then spits on Fern, causing him to fall to the ground for a moment. Finn then draws his demon sword as Fern stands up and rushes at Finn. Fern and Finn then lock in a sword clash as Steven jumps over Finn and spins, throwing his shield at Finn, cutting him in half from behind. Finn's body then falls to the ground, split in two, as Steven lands on the ground, out of breath. Holy shit! He just split Finn in half. Well, I guess I need to explain how Steven beat Finn the Human. So this fight was one of the closest fights I've ever covered on this show. Both Finn and Steven boasted incredibly impressive feats of strength and durability. Steven is strong enough to overpower and unfuse gems like Topaz, who could easily fight the other three crystal gems, and more importantly, he managed to fight and damage the diamonds, and even block their attacks while they were pissed off. Keep in mind, Blue Diamond easily took hits from Lapis, who should be in the multi-continental levels of strength by controlling all of the Earth's water. And he managed to take hits from Yellow Diamond, who could easily break through her ship that matched the planet-sized cluster. And Steven's shield managed to block a blast from the other three diamonds, and with Steven being a diamond, he should easily be planet level, and it makes perfect sense that he is. Finn, on the other hand, can beat the Ice King, who in another timeline froze the entire fucking planet, and he beat the Lich, who says the Ice King is fodder in comparison. He could easily survive a blast from the Flame Princess, who after they kissed, should have melted through the planet and destroyed it, according to Princess Bubblegum, and he was able to take on a giant chef who could cut through the planet with ease. So both Finn and Steven were in the multi-continental to planet level areas, meaning they're practically dead even in strength and durability. When it came to speed, they both had incredibly impressive scaling, like Steven scaling to Pearl, who could pilot a relativistic spaceship through a meteor shower, and Finn, who scales to that guy who could run around the planet in a short period of time, also giving him relativistic speeds. So both were tied in speed and strength and durability. So what about skill and intelligence? Well, Finn may not have any training, but he can navigate through a dungeon blindfolded and fight demons with thousands of years of experience. Steven, on the other hand, can navigate through a dungeon with only random objects in his backpack, and has fought gems who have fought in plenty of wars and have thousands of years of experience. So yeah, both Steven and Finn were practically dead even in terms of stats, and their skill was practically even as well. So this fight came down to purely X factors. For one, Finn had his swords, whereas Steven had his sword and shield, so Steven has more options for attacking. He could block and attack at the same time, whereas Finn would only have the ability to block or attack. But that's not the deciding factor. You see, Steven had 3 factors that gave him the win. For one, his shield is reactive. We've seen it form around Steven without him activating it, only to save his life a few times. So in this fight, it'll be hard for Finn to land any lethal attacks because of this. That's not to say it's perfect, because we have seen Steven get hurt before, but it is definitely a problem Finn will have to deal with during combat. The next X factor is Steven's healing spit and tears. He could easily use this to heal himself up from wounds by simply encasing himself in a bubble and then healing. Now you could argue Finn could use this to his advantage like he did with the Cyclops, but he won't know that Steven has this healing capability until later in the fight, and it's unlikely he could use it against Steven. Whereas against the Cyclops, all you had to do is punch him in his giant eye. Steven is in the same place physically as him, so it's going to be much harder for him to take advantage of this. The last major X factor that Steven has over Finn is probably the most deadly for Finn. Steven can control plants and create sentient plant life, so if Finn were to ever summon Fern, who is physically equal to himself, Steven could possibly take control of Fern and turn it against him. Meaning Finn would not only have to fight Fern, who's his literal physical equal, but also have to take on Steven, who, as I've proven, should be equal to Finn as well. And while Finn has beaten Fern before, it's incredibly unlikely he could beat both Fern and Steven at the same time. This isn't to say Finn is completely out of the count. He does have his magical abilities, but to add the last nail into Finn's coffin, his best chance of beating Steven would be his soul manipulation. But Steven has soul-based abilities and his ability to control others while they're asleep to some extent. Not to mention he was able to control Watermelon Steven from across the universe, and when he was quote-unquote poofed, Steven managed to talk to several other gems while they were still fighting, so it's unlikely his soul-based magic would even work on Steven. And on top of that, if Finn were to even do something like, I don't know, remove Steven's gem has shown it's on par with White Diamond before. So even in the case of Finn getting lucky and doing something that could kill Steven, he would still fuck himself over. Looks like Steven diaminated Finn in this fight. Our winner is Steven Universe. Before I announce the next time, I do want to give a huge shout out to Z-Dog for making the trailer. With that being said, without further ado, let's introduce the next time. Next time on Combo Breaker. Oh, hell yes. Carnage versus Freddy Krueger. Now, to allow you to make the most accurate predictions in the comments below, I'm going to tell you this. For Freddy Krueger, I'll be using the video games, the movies, and the comic books. And for Carnage, I'll be using the comic books and video games.